Hi there, it's Alexandra from the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel and blog with the December garden tour. And I'm trying out some expert tips for winter gardening, which I hope will help you too. This is very much an English garden. It's a walled garden behind a Georgian house. And nearest the house, we've echoed the four-square architecture of the house on something we call the parterre. You go up steps and then it's divided into four squares, and we keep this quite formal and quite simple. And then it opens out into a lawn, and the whole garden is a fat L shape. The weather at the moment is quite mild, but the most important thing is that we've actually reached the shortest days of the year. Today, we've only got 7 hours and 49 minutes of sunlight in southeast England. And I know some people find the short days really deeply depressing, and I'm lucky I'm not one of those, but I do think that lack of sunlight affects us all at some level, and therefore it's really important to try to get out if you can. I'm lucky that I work from home because I'm a writer. I write books and I write about gardening. So I try and make sure that I can get out and do a little bit of winter gardening at lunchtime. This month I'm making a special effort with the winter garden because there's actually quite a lot you can do that really makes the summer so much better. But I do want to leave seed heads and grasses and things, partly because they look so beautiful in the frost and partly because it's great for wildlife. So let's have a look at those tips. But first I want to show you how the garden has changed in the last few weeks with 40 seconds of this garden to music. Now for the practical tips. Earlier this year, I interviewed garden consultant Matt Jackson of Land and Heritage, and he said that one of the best ways to make your garden look good in winter is to keep mowing the lawn. Obviously, you don't mow as often, and also you mow it on a higher setting. And of course, if it's very muddy or anything, don't go out and mow. But he says that it really makes a difference. And I think you can see from the before and after here what a difference it's made to our garden to mow the lawn and do the edges now in the middle of December. I also interviewed no-dig guru Charles Dowding earlier this year because I wanted to know how you can do no-dig for flower gardens as well as for vegetables. And he said the principles are just the same, which is that you don't dig. You can obviously, if you want to plant something, you dig a hole that is the size of the root and then you put the plant in. But otherwise you don't dig at all. But once a year you put on a really good layer of mulch and you stay on top of weeds by taking them out as soon as you see them. Now, we have a huge infestation of perennial weeds, and Charles Dowding's advice, if you do have an infestation of perennial weeds, is to cover the bed completely with something like horticultural black plastic or even carpet for at least a season, because then the weeds just are deprived of light. But I don't want to do that because I will lose my bulbs and my self-seeders and everything like that. So I am using the winter to try and tease out as many of the roots of the perennial weeds as possible. I'm putting a thick layer of mulch on top, and then in February I'm going to try and get in there immediately their little heads poke out. But I'll keep you updated on how this weed strategy works, because it would be lovely to have fewer weeds. And of course the no-dig means fewer annual weeds because you're not bringing weed seeds to the surface. There's absolutely no point, of course, in using weed killer in December because the weeds aren't growing actively and therefore they don't pull the poison down to their roots. The other thing I'm doing is rethinking my main flower border. I planted this up originally 8 years ago, and although things have died and I've stuck things in and pulled things out, I haven't really rethought it, and I think it's a really good idea to completely rethink one of your borders every so often. I've moved some of the dahlias, and there are also two plants which are absolutely beautiful, but they are spreading everywhere and choking everything, and that is daylilies and Iris sibirica. So I've reduced those by half. And I've also planted more roses because there's a bit of a June-July gap in this border, and I think roses could fill that. All this has been a brilliant opportunity to tidy up the garden in other ways. I find that little plastic pots tend to get sort of scattered away in corners, and either I stop seeing them, or when plants are growing, they grow all over them. Of course, now that everything isn't growing, it's a great chance for me to walk around the garden and actively look at and say, right, okay, well, that's been sitting there for too long. So that's a great help. We don't bag up our leaves. We just rake them off the lawn and put them on the beds. And if they've fallen on the beds, we leave them on the beds because they will mulch down. It offers some shelter for wildlife. And also I found that when I put my old leaves into plastic bags and then put them aside, and then I open them in 2 years' time hoping for some lovely leaf mulch, and all I have is dried leaves. So I'm much happier just simply forking them into the borders, and of course it is less work. If there are any garden issues or problems that you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching the garden tours over this last year. I have really, really appreciated your comments and suggestions. It's been a huge help, and please do keep on saying what you like and what you don't like. And if you haven't subscribed to the Middlesized Garden, we have tips, ideas and inspiration for your middle-sized garden, and we upload every Saturday. So do join us. Thank you so much. Bye.